Michigan coming off of a national championship in 2023. But I truly believe that Sherrone Moore has next to no pressure his first year as the head coach in Ann Arbor. We'll talk about that right now, but first things first, Michigan Wolverine fans, make sure you subscribe to the On3 YouTube channel, baby. We talk college football every single day on this show, The Hard Count. Full hour-long episodes coming at you Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. The best way to make sure you don't miss those episodes is by being subscribed to this channel. So we appreciate y'all so much in advance for doing that. Now, why we feel like there is little to no pressure on Sherrone Moore in year one is not the same as having no expectations in year one. Because that fan base, man, like that brand, it means something. The goal is the same every single year. Beat Ohio State, win the Big Ten, win a national championship. So you're saying, JD, you have those expectations, but you don't have pressure? Yes, the reason why I think there's no pressure on Sherrone Moore is because of what he's inheriting. Yes, they won the national title last year, but it's not like he's walking into this upcoming season with the same ingredients as last season. Michigan is 128th in the country in returning production. Y'all, there's only 134 teams. All right, so essentially we got a brand new cast of characters to go and try and get this thing done. And it's not just the lack of returning production, it's the lack of returning production at some really key spots. New quarterback in J.J. McCarthy. Your bell cow for the last couple of seasons, Blake Corum, he's not there anymore. So no McCarthy, no Corum. There's going to be some new faces that have to contribute in a very big way. Now, with that being said, there's also some really key pieces that you're going to ask more of in Kenneth Grant, Mason Graham on the defensive line, Donovan Edwards. He's still proven what he can do for you running the football. Colston Loveland is, I think, going to be an all-everything tight end for you this upcoming season. So there's still some key contributors, but looking at what you have on this roster, a lot of new faces, like I just said. We'll see what happens at the quarterback position if they go with Alex Orji or if they go to the portal from that second spring window. Also, not just the roster, ton of new staff. Like Jim Harbaugh, as much as he did for Michigan, winning them a national title this past season, there was a lot of guys that he took with him to the NFL. And that's one of those things where you kind of just throw your palms up and say, can you really blame anybody for wanting to go coach at the next level in the NFL and wanting to go live in Los Angeles? It is what it is. So Sherrone Moore has made some hires here, from internally promoting someone to be the new head strength coach, going out and landing Wink Martindale from the NFL ranks to be your DC. Like there's a lot of newness here. So what I want to make sure we say, yes, Sherrone Moore possesses a lot of the qualities that you were looking for in a head coach, from continuity with your roster to having been around a national championship team to having that formula intact. But there's a lot of things about this team that are going to be completely new. Completely new. And again, that doesn't mean there's no expectations, but you understand a first-year head coach with all of these new pieces on the staff and the roster, that's going to provide, I think, a little bit of leniency to what year one of the Sherrone Moore era has to offer. Now, again, they're not thinking that internally either. They're not saying, okay, let's go 9-3, 8-4, that'll be a good year. No, the expectation is still the same, but I think the Michigan fan base is understanding enough of what's going on right now in Ann Arbor and the transition that's taking place. I think that's a good thing for all parties. We'll get back to the no pressure conversation here in just a little bit. But let's talk about Sherrone Moore long term, because I want to make sure we talk about this. Just because there isn't as much pressure on him in year one doesn't mean there's not still massive expectations for him in the long term, because that was why you hired Sherrone Moore, right? It wasn't a thing of we just want to kind of provide some continuity with the roster. You knew a lot of these guys were headed to the NFL. You knew there was a lot of guys that were going to be gone whether Jim Harbaugh was the head coach or not. Sherrone Moore was hired with the long term in mind, because he's been around the championship culture, because he's understanding of the championship formula that Jim Harbaugh had in place, and also the opportunity cost of not hiring a Sherrone Moore. Let's be clear now, Sherrone Moore was going to be a head coach in college football, whether it was in Ann Arbor or somewhere else in the future. And Sherrone Moore, I wholeheartedly believe, along with a lot of other people in this industry, he's a rising star when it comes to the head coaching ranks. Okay, so with him being the potentially one of the next great coaches in this sport, and to have him in-house in Ann Arbor, if you let him walk out the door, that would have been a disservice to everybody involved. It would have been a calculated risk, I think, that you wouldn't want to look back on and say, man, we could have hired Sherrone Moore if we had just made him our head coach. If we had just decided Sherrone Moore would have been the next head coach at Michigan, maybe we could have had the success that his future team is having right now. Thankfully, you won't have that conversation. But again, Sherrone Moore, the short-term benefits are there, but it was always a long-term hire. You didn't hire Sherrone Moore to win a national title in 2024. Now, you have expectations to do great things, but again, the hiring of Sherrone Moore was not just to keep the thing afloat in 2024. It was to do good things down the road. So with this upcoming season, Sherrone Moore, you may not see what he's going to be as a final product as a head coach. That's okay. That's okay. How many of us were great day one or year one at our new job? It's very likely that Sherrone Moore in year 4 as a head coach at Michigan will have some different things he's learned, some different things he's applied or installed that he necessarily wasn't aware of in year 1. And that's okay. That's the growth that we're going to see here. So again, going back to the no pressure conversation, let's not put all this pressure on Sherrone Moore and Michigan to win a national title in 2024 just because they won it in 2023. It's year 1 for Sherrone Moore. It's a brand new roster. It's a brand new staff in a lot of respects. Let's let it bake a little bit. Let's let it bake. Let's hold our opinions loosely of this hiring of Sherrone Moore at Michigan until we get a little bit more data. Also, I think it's worth noting, talk about pressure in the Big Ten. Yes, Michigan just won a national championship. I think the Big Ten has more pressure at other places that aren't Ann Arbor, Michigan. Ohio State, 0-3 the last 3 years against Michigan. Went out to the portal and went to work. Got Quinshon Judkins, got Will Howard, went and grabbed Caleb Downs, the best player in the portal. It's go time for Ohio State. Talk about pressure. You talk about that in Columbus, Ohio. Let's talk about Penn State. That's a team that I think has a window right now to do some really good things. And 10-2 has been a punchline for them over the course of the last couple of seasons. You got a quarterback in Drew Aller, James Franklin. It's like, hey, let's get over the hump here. Let's do some good things. Let's go win the Big Ten. There's pressure in Happy Valley, not pressure on Ann Arbor. Now, there's still pressure in Ann Arbor, but it's not the same as it is in Columbus or in Happy Valley. Talk about Oregon, their first year in the Big Ten. You only get the chance to make a first impression one time, right? Okay, so for Dan Lanning and company, I think they're built for it, but still there's this thought that, okay, we got to make a splash. Otherwise, there's going to be a little bit of this narrative that starts to grow around, well, hey, Oregon, they were just a Pac-12 team. They were just kind of that soft West Coast team. Now, I don't believe that. I don't think most folks in the Big Ten believe that either. But we understand there's pressure on Oregon to make a really good first impression. So with all that being said, the fact that there is no pressure this first year for Sherrone Moore, I think makes them dangerous. I think for Michigan, they should feel every sense of liberty to just go out there and cut it loose. Just go out there and cut it loose, because if you don't have the weight of the expectations like you did last year, where it was like, all right, everybody came back for this national title run, you don't feel the weight of that last year. You don't feel the weight of what last year was. It's a brand new team. You don't know what you don't know, and sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes ignorance is bliss. And I'll tell you what, there's nothing more dangerous than a soldier with nothing to lose. We need to use context when we assess Michigan, because they play 3 of the preseason top 5 teams in the country between Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State. So we're going to figure out here real quick what Michigan is in 2024. And if they go 9-3 through that stretch, and those are the 3 games they drop, we're not predicting it, but if that happens, I think they're still one of the best teams in the country, and still I think would have a pretty valid case for the college football playoff. So to recap it here, there should be no pressure on Michigan. Last year was last year. This year is this year. Sherrone Moore, new roster, new staff. Let's let it marinate a little bit. Whatever happens in year 1, that's great, but let's give our opinions some runway here before we solidify what it is on Michigan. Hiring Sherrone Moore was a long-term decision. It wasn't just a thing where you wanted to hire him for 2024 to have success. Yes, you want to have success in 2024, but you hired him for the future and what you could eventually achieve with him as your head coach, because of what he is as a rising star in the industry and because of what he's been around in a national championship team under Jim Harbaugh. Also, Jim Harbaugh endorsed him, if that didn't mean anything. Pressure's on everyone else in the Big Ten. For Michigan, you get to cut it loose, get to play free, house money. Let's go win some ball games. And in that way, I think that makes Michigan even more dangerous in a lot of different ways. Make sure you subscribe. Live show tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, @JD Patel. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. I'm going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.